Welcome to Pax8 Studios. I'm Maria Armstrong from the Pax8 Academy and joined by Nathan Hutchison this morning. We want to talk about the trials and tribulations, the communication between sales and service, with a particular focus this morning on project delivery, project handoff, project sales. It's a topic that most of our partners have raised as an issue that we've been working with them on. So we thought, why not come up with a bit of a chat that you guys can hopefully hear some of what we're hearing and some of the solutions that we've come up with. Nathan, good morning. Can you introduce your background?
Yeah, so I'm also with Pax8 Academy. My area of focus is around projects, service delivery, and leadership development. So having worked across those parts of the business through from being an engineer up to managing them. So had a lot of experiences in this myself, being on the receiving end of poor scoped projects, as well as helping organizations navigate it as well.
Fabulous. So, and the reason that Nathan and I are having the chat is because I've been in the sales team handing off projects to the lucky service team, and this was a conversation. We've obviously had a number of chats internally, Nathan and I, and the blame game is very real between teams in any business. And particularly between sales and project delivery, the communication seems to break down and the processes seem to break down. So maybe we can solve some of those today. Salespeople like selling projects. Projects can make a lot of money quickly. Salespeople are usually targeted on a number. And that number isn't around whether the project's profitable. It isn't around whether the project can be delivered on time or on budget, or whether it stresses the delivery team out. The number is how many dollars does the customer pay the business towards the salesperson's quota. So what does that do to your team, Nathan?
Yeah, so I understand around that as well. So you've got targets to hit, you've got sales that you need to make, and often what I see happen is either through a lack of confidence or other situations that may happen, budgetary restraints from the client, we start reducing the amount of money that we're charging for a project. Now, there's a few different ways that we usually approach this, and one is that we're going to drop the amount of hours. It's the worst option. The second option is that you drop or reduce the cost of the project, but you keep the hours the same, so you're starting to discount the rates. Again, not a great option, because once you've done it once for your client, what's to stop you from doing it again if they realize that they always have this wiggle room in negotiation, and that's going to impact the gross margin across your service and projects as well. The third option, which tends not to be done, is let's readdress what's actually in scope and take things out that aren't required, that aren't must-haves for this project. I want to talk more around the first point with the reducing hours, because that's the one that has the most impact. So we've talked about this before, some of the benefits of reducing the hours for the sales point is that the sales gets closer to meeting their sales target. The client is more likely to pay because the price is more affordable. And your sales team may get the commission sooner because they're not going through lengthy negotiations. So those are all the positives that come out of it. But what happens from the project side is that it's not adequately funded and resourced, because we don't have that time accounted for. We don't have the budget to deliver what we're doing. When we're going to dropping the hours, often it's done quite arbitrarily of, we'll take this much off. and now you've got to go and find a way to deliver it in that amount of hours without actually getting any insight or help into how to do it. So if we drop the project by 20%, how can we do it 20% more efficiently? So what happens as a result of that is that we become more and more unlikely to meet our deadlines and our milestones and the agreed dates throughout the project duration. And the first thing that tends to suffer from that as well is quality, because everything starts getting rushed because we are putting these, intense time targets across everything. We're not taking the time to do things well to our usual standards. What then also starts happening when we're talking around unlikely to meet deadlines and milestones, as I was saying before, is a whole bunch of unaccounted for work's going to start appearing, and you can't forecast it. You're not scheduling it. You don't have visibility of it, and that's going to impact your capacity of your team. So
I was going to say,
what?
that sounds like 1 and 2 should be off the table
Yeah.
as a sales strategy. So if I'm selling a
Mhm.
project, take them off the table. So option 3, how do I make the sale, have the customer happy with the price, and make it possible for delivery to be able to deliver the project properly?
Well, I think one of the first things is having the people who are going to be delivering or involved in the work actually involved in that scoping process to start with, and having those being involved in some of those, qualifying conversations that you're having. Are we actually trying to push a whole bunch of products and services to them that they don't need? And we've front-footed that because we want to package and sell as many things as possible, just to get the win, maybe even for the fact of having some general alignment, or we've got a playbook that we're following, and if they have this, we give them this as well. But having those people in to uncover what those business problems are, what their actual needs are, work through it. You can use things to qualify it, to prioritize as well. So you could be using something like the Moscow method, which is must, should, could, won't have. Go through those things, identify if there's anything that we can take out. Maybe a case that they are could haves or they should haves, but we're not going to do them now. We're going to do them next financial year when you've got more budget allocated. The other thing I would say that's a little bit probably more heretical is just say no sometimes.
Just say no to the deal, or
Yeah.
okay.
This is where I think sometimes with our metrics we fall through, with chasing targets and other things like that. Is it really working towards the outcome that we should all be working towards, which is, great client outcomes and experience at a profitable margin so that we can remain a business? If you are having to consistently sell your projects and you're running them at a loss, sure, your salespeople are hitting the targets, but your gross margin, your EBITDA, everything, all your bottom line is going to be, getting dug into, buried, thrown away.
Yeah, and that sort of speaks to one of the areas that I'm quite passionate about, is knowing the numbers, knowing the data, and communicating that back. So
Mm,
if the sales team are consistently selling projects that are going over budget, causing problems with time, underscoped, um, then that needs to be reported back, and not just as a stop doing that, more as a this is what's happening because
mm,
because this was quoted this way, this is what is happening for the business negatively, and
mm,
this is what's happening for the delivery team negatively.
mm.
We need to solve this problem, and it could be something very minor, like you said. It could be we might find that removing 1 or 2 components from a scope, redefining the scope a little bit, will actually make the projects profitable. The service delivery team won't be hating the sales team. So it's that looped communication, I think, is really important between the two teams as well. So feeding back what needs to be fixed for next time.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. Having that visibility and that accountability throughout. So if your project is underscoped and you don't have enough hours to achieve what's been set out, often what I've seen is engineers, project managers start putting their time against managed services, and they'll start putting it in creative ways of, internal meetings and other things like that. So what then happens is, from the service or project side, they'll be saying projects are under scoped continually. It's causing a whole bunch of stress for our team. We're not delivering to the quality that we should be, and we've got nothing to back it up because, well, all these projects you ran on time, on budget, or maybe you didn't run on time, but they ran to budget. So it's not a problem with the budget, it's a problem with your ability to deliver. And so out of that, what we need to really be doing is making it visible by doing the things like putting in our time, making sure that we're also identifying when things are out of scope. Going back to reducing the hours as a tactic, what happens is you start pulling people out of different pieces of work and you're going to build a backlog and have a whole bunch of unfinished projects. What also tends to happen as well is, and I'm sure you've seen this as well, we undersell the project to start with, and then halfway through we go, oh, we need another 50K because we've run well over budget, rather than just have said that 50K up front. So we've kind of held them at gunpoint of, here's a half-finished project and now we need more money, when we could have communicated that at the start. Just because we may not be doing it now with the scope doesn't mean that we will never do it as well. And that's an important point. You should be having roadmaps with your clients anyway, and talking around what you're going to be doing in each quarter. Tie it in with your business technology reviews or your QBRs, and have those things flagged and highlighted as things that we will address later. But don't reduce my hours.
That sounds like a good approach. Would you have anything to wrap that up?
Main thing, as I said, is as a starting point, making it visible so that we can start looking at the processes of how we're getting these things done. Also, we can start looking at if there's efficiency gains so that we can be doing these things at a cheaper rate to the clients, but making a greater margin across it as well. But to do that, it's great to have that data behind us to make that decision. So if we're consistently 120% over projects, maybe as a general rule, we should be looking at why are we underquoting by, the 20% that we need, and going from there. So by starting, put your time where it's meant to go. Don't be so worried around looking bad in terms of we're running over budget or I'm not getting things done in the time that I need to do. You need to have that visibility to be able to address the issue. Otherwise, it goes into a black hole.
And communicate clearly between teams. No laying the blame game. No accusing sales of selling the wrong thing, or sales of not pulling their finger out and delivering in time to the service team. I think it becomes a clear, open lines of communication to work out where the problems really are, and how to solve them for the future.
Yeah, as long as we're focused on the important thing, as I was saying before, good client outcomes, and we're making money.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. We will catch up next time on the next sales and service tribulations. Thank you.
Cool. Catch you soon.